as you all know, Pennsylvania 7 is a neighboring district. Ellen and I were looking at a fun map yesterday about how we actually touch, even though we're on different states, which is pretty exciting. And Susan won her first congressional election last cycle in 2018. She was part of the Fab Four, if you may have heard of them, of Chrissy, Mary Gay Scanlon, Madeline Dean, that group. And they were all, at the same time they tied, the first women in Congress from the state of Pennsylvania. Up to that point, Pennsylvania had never had a female congressperson. So we are very proud of not just Susan, but all of them for that accomplishment and that representation. Susan has lived in the Lehigh Valley for more than 30 years. She raised her children there. They were born there. They've attended school there. They are both now grown. Susan herself is, she worked as an attorney for many years, as a community advocate, and she has been a leader in the Lehigh Valley in many different ways, and especially with our Jewish community there. When she was raising her children, built up a pretty successful legal practice, and some of the really exciting things where she got to work with ACLU a good bit. And one such instance, she was able to reunite a family in Allentown that had gotten separated from Trump's travel ban. So those are just, she's been doing this for her entire life and doing anything she can to help the people of the Lehigh Valley. And we are just so proud to have her as our congressperson. Pennsylvania 7, the Lehigh Valley, it's Northampton County, Lehigh County, and just a little bit of Monroe County. Northampton County is a pretty interesting place because it is an Obama-Trump county. The entire district as a whole is considered very much a bellwether for the state of Pennsylvania. And that county in particular within our district is a bellwether of the bellwether. So it is an incredibly purple place, and it is battleground as it gets. They voted Obama, they voted Trump. This entire district has not voted in a Democrat congressperson in a very long time, but voted very strongly for Susan last cycle. This year, Susan faces a pretty tough re-election campaign. Our opponent last cycle did not run much of a race at all, and our opponent this cycle has come out swinging. Her name is Lisa Scheller. She is self-funded. She has a personal net worth of over $250 million and has already made it clear that she will be putting a lot of her money into the race. So we know that this is not, we're not going to be able to outspend her. And we know that our field program and what we do on the ground, talking with voters, is what will make the difference in this election cycle. We also know that Trump being back on the ballot is going to be quite a challenge for us. We have a lot of voters in Pennsylvania 7 who may have voted for Susan 2 years ago, but did vote for Trump 4 years before. So we are ready to have tough conversations with volunteers and make sure we rally together everyone we possibly can. Before I dive in a little bit more on what we're doing, I just want to give a quick overview of what Susan's been up to in Congress for the past year and a half or so. Susan has been appointed to the House Education and Labor Committee, the Foreign Affairs Committee, and the Committee on Ethics. So she serves on all of those. And she is committed to fighting for quality, affordable healthcare for all. That's a very big thing for her. She also focuses a lot on the economy. Very recently, she's been working with other congresspeople in Pennsylvania to introduce bills that are going to help local restaurants. We have a lot of restaurants that are owned locally in the Lehigh Valley, and they are being impacted very, very hard by all of the economic impacts from coronavirus and COVID-19. So she's been working a lot on that. As well, she works on the education system in our district a lot. She introduces bills such as simplifying student loan or providing more generous repayment plans, things such as that. And one thing that has been a bit of a passion project recently that she has taken on, she has been a leading congressperson on mental health advocacy in Congress. She, after a death in the family, took on this mantle, honestly, and has worked hard to get bills passed in Congress to make sure that the suicide of a family member does qualify as a life event for life insurance. I would love to now kind of turn to what our program is doing and what we're doing this cycle. So as you know, as I've been saying, and as I've been saying so far, and as Ellen and Kathy have been talking about, we know that our field program is going to be what makes the difference come November 3rd. Our field program right now obviously looks a little different than when I was first envisioning it, and when Susan was planning out what this cycle was going to look like because of everything that has happened with the pandemic. So we are making a lot of adjustments. We are doing things like this where we're meeting people over Zoom, even with folks in our district and volunteers in district. Um, and instead of knocking doors right now, we are doing a lot of phone banking. We're also going to be incorporating text banking, relational events, and that's obviously targeted more towards in district, but we're going to be asking that all of our volunteers are tapping into their existing networks and talking with the folks in their lives, their neighbors, their family, their friends, and making sure that they not only turn out and vote, but that they turn out and vote for Susan. We're also going to have a very, very large campaign around vote by mail applications, and returning these vote by mail returning mail-in ballots. Excuse me. Vote by mail in Pennsylvania is not necessarily the easiest system. You do have to apply, so you have to send in an application to get your request. Then you get your request, you have to fill it out, send it back in, and then you can get your ballot. It is a pretty complicated process, and this is the first time that Pennsylvania, other than the primary, so this year is our first time having no excuse mail-in voting. Up until this point, you had to prove to an extent some sort of burden that meant you could not make it physically to the polls. So we are going to be doing a lot of work around persuasion and a lot of work around vote by mail turnout. These days, we are doing, with our phone banks, we're doing persuasion. The calls have been actually really lovely. We've been, something about Pennsylvania, and especially Pennsylvania 7, is that we cannot really confirm all of our Democrats are going to be voting for Susan until we talk to them. Support is a little more loosey-goosey in Pennsylvania than it is in some other states. And so we know that we have to talk to a lot of Democrats to make sure we can count on their support. So some of our conversations right now with voters have been ID oriented, just making sure that we can count on their vote. And if we can count on their vote, asking them to join us and get involved as well. We also talk to a lot of Democrats who maybe haven't decided yet. We talk to a lot of independents and even some Republicans, but they're in there. But our group of independents is quite large. There's a very large population of independents and other in Pennsylvania, especially Pennsylvania 7. And so we do a lot of conversations with them about why they should be supporting Susan and what values they're looking for in a leader and how we see those values in Susan. We've actually found that a lot of our out-of-district volunteers are having really wonderful conversations with voters who are undecided, because so many are really just blown away by the fact that someone out of the state cares enough to call into this district. That really gets across to them how important this election cycle is, how amazing Susan Wild is as a congressperson, and how necessary it is for them to really think about this upcoming election cycle. So phone banking has been all over virtual. Like I said before, we use a system called Open VPB, which I've been talking with Ellen and Kathy about getting you all set up on. I know some of you probably have already used it, pretty similar to what a lot of campaigns use. And we're going to be starting to incorporate text banking in the coming weeks. We're seeing, some different changes in how campaigns are running text programs this year. We're going to be doing a little bit of persuasion texting, not a ton, but we are going to be doing a lot of vote by mail chase texting, which will be really, really great, and a way that we can engage with a lot of voters that up until this point, we haven't necessarily been able to get them on the phone or get them at their door. We are hopeful that we may be able to canvass down the road, but at this point, we have no plans that are set in stone. So another thing we're really making sure we do is postcards. And that's something that I've been talking with Ellen and Kathy about, and getting you all looped in on our postcards efforts as well. These are primarily centering around Democrats in general, and really making sure we're talking to the people of Pennsylvania 7 about voting blue up and down the ticket. And we do this as well with our phone banking. We do ask specifically about state house candidates, about voting Democrat for the straight ticket, all of that, to make sure we can do anything that we can to help our down ballot races, as well as up ticket, and making sure we can do whatever it takes to get Biden elected as well. Yeah, our relational texting program is targeted more towards in-district volunteers. That being said, if you have friends, family, anything in Pennsylvania 7, everyone should definitely talk to them. But we are using that, volunteer texting for strangers, right? People in our universe that we're trying to talk to. Yeah.